take up the entire hour, but also executive committee members of SEPSA, which is the Society for Educational Psychology of South Africa. So thank you so much for joining us today. The structure of the webinar will unfold that our panel will answer questions that were previously sent by email. And after that, we'll open questions to participants. So to you, any questions that you have, please send your questions in the chat option, or you can message me privately if you'd like to remain anonymous, or you can also just raise your hand if you'd like to ask a question. Until then, if I can ask you to please mute yourselves, as we are recording this. So for the quality of recording, if you can mute yourselves, that would be great. Also, after the webinar, this recording will be made available on our YouTube channel. And if you have any questions following this webinar, please do send them to me and I will address them. You've got my email address. It is on social media and it's psychostudentvice@gmail.com. We're also joined today by Ravendra Govender, who's the Student Division's wonderful secretary, and she keeps us all in line, and the student rep for SEPSA. And I'm Genevieve, I'm the vice chairperson of the Student Division. Okay, shall we get started? Lynn, Pietru and Lisa received questions. If you'd like to go ahead and address those questions.
All right, so do you want me to start?
Yes, that would be great, thank you.
All right, so the one question I was asked was from a lady that asked about how to teach, and I've set up some stuff. I just want to move my thing. Do you want to read the question out?
Are these Sempri's questions?
Yes. Do you want to read the question out that was aimed at me while I just set up here? I've got some stuff for her. She wanted to know how to teach. Just read it for me.
Yes. So Sempri says that she facilitates a 13-year-old boy with autism and ADHD. And he regularly confuses B, D, A, E, P, Q, and M, N letters, and that this is more frequent during times when he is stressed or frustrated. He's in mainstream schooling in grade 2, and his teacher says that the errors he is committing are common in children in mainstream schooling. So then Sempri goes on to say in one of the educational books that she read, it suggested that using a child's finger to physically draw out the letter on the table does help momentarily to recognize the correct form of the letters that the child is saying, but long term it does not seem to be as effective.
No.
Whereas the numbers he often confuses with 2 placements. Are there any other helpful strategies that you can recommend?
Okay, so first of all, let me just explain. My PhD was actually in dyslexia. So she and I'm happy for you to give her my email address. She's welcome to contact me personally. If she would like a more involved reply, she's welcome to contact me. And if she emails me, I'll give her some more information and a link to my PhD. But in terms of the child sounds, even though he's got autism, he's probably got dyslexia as well. But you can't really diagnose dyslexia without a proper assessment. And a child with autism is very difficult to diagnose with dyslexia. So reversal of letters is common, very, very common in grade 1, less common in grade 2, and by the end of grade 3, there should be no more reversals. If there are still reversals by the end of grade 3, then we need to really look seriously at possible dyslexia. And we would then need to assess properly. Now, I don't want to go into assessment too much, but I want to answer a question in terms of what do we do. So what I do is an easy classroom, and I'm not going to spend too much time. I'm just going to give a couple of examples. So I'm going to move my camera down. So I take paper plates for the children, and we use lots of different materials. And the more sensors that they use, the better. So depending on how sensory sensitive the child with autism is, because children with autism are very sensitive to sensory things. If they can manage clay, I take different color clays. And if they recognize blue, you could use the blue clay for the butt. So they would take the blue clay. I'm not going to take it out now because I'm going to make my fingers filthy. And they would form the bee with the blue clay. And then they often, she said that the little boy confuses the B and the D. then they would make the B with the blue clay, and any other clay they could make the D. So they'd actually form the letters with their fingers and put it onto the paper plate, and with another color make the D. So they would actually form the letter with their hands. Then another way of doing it is you take various food things, because now and again, you need to be careful that the child doesn't hate the smell of something. So for example, children with ADHD, and often children, let me just show you my face again for a minute. Children with autism often have comorbid ADHD, so I'm not sure of the whole background of this child, and she's welcome to contact me to have a little bit more information, and I can give her some other ideas. So when I teach teachers, which it sounds like she is teaching, I say to them, take a simple thing like tomato sauce, and I've put this tomato, this is All Gold, nice advert for All Gold. This is what I use in my kitchen. So you would get them to actually take the tomato sauce, and we'll draw a T, for example, or any letters that they need to. And so you teach the child to do the T with the tomato sauce. I'm making a lovely mess. And you go T for tomato sauce. And you can smell the tomato. And then if you want to do a P, you can use peanut butter. P for peanut butter, and you draw it with your finger and you taste it. They can taste this T, trace the T with the tomato, taste it, and they get all the senses involved, the smell, the taste, the drawing, the actual tracing it. It's actually wonderful. And the paper plate can then be thrown away, which is lovely. So this is a wonderful way for them to learn. I think that might be helpful. I don't know if this young lady's listening. I don't know if she's young or old, I'm assuming. If that helps a little bit to answer a question, if that's helpful for everybody. So if I had to take peanut butter, we would take the peanut butter and put a P for peanut butter, taste the P, and then all the different letters and so on.
Thank you so much. That is very, very helpful. And he's especially good with clay and Play-Doh. He actually enjoys it. So for me, pardon me, yeah, no, that is my
awesome.
question.
Okay, awesome. I'm glad that you can speak directly to me.
Yes, so no, it's absolutely, that would be wonderful. And I think, as you say, because with autism, it's important to involve all the senses. And then what I have also noticed, and I'm glad you picked it up, is he's got a really good association with color and learning, which is what I've come to learn. Like, especially with the colors green, blue, like the cooler sort of colors, he actually retains it. Like, I learned that quite a bit when I was doing sight words with him. So I think absolutely that would be very effective. So I'll definitely try it. Yeah.
And if I've got a minute, if I may, I just want to teach you with the B and the D, and some people don't like this. If you have a ruler, I've just got a green ruler with me, and an eraser. This is the A on a bed.
Yeah.
I'm going to, so this is now in reverse, but here's the B, and here's the D and the A on the bed.
Yes.
So if the B and the D reverse, the A falls off the bed.
That I have seen that as well in the strategies. They have a picture of a bed, and then they have a bar, and then they have the da, and then what it like.
So that would be the right way around. The bar, a, da. I can send, if you just ask for my email address, I'll send you some more information. We can actually chat if you want to.
Yes, that'll be brilliant. Thank you so much.
To do that with you. All right.
Simply, I have made a note. And I will send you Lynn's email address once the webinar.
Okay, I don't want to hold the whole question.
No, you have. Thank you, Genevieve. Thank you.
Genevieve, if I can jump in there quickly.
Yes.
What I definitely agree with Lynn that's a very, very useful strategy. And what I also find useful is once they made it, to take a photo of what they made. And then if you can print it out in a little cue card, so they can stick it up around the house or put it on a fridge or in their room or whatever. And even with sight words that they might find difficult. So they literally create the whole word with the clay or the Play-Doh or the tomato sauce or whatever, so that they have that visual cue, so that once they're not in the session with you anymore, they always have that visual cue to refer back on. But
multi-sensory, something like that, Lise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Would you take the photo?
That's exactly, yeah, that I've seen that. And then they actually have a visual, because he's quite a visual learner with the autism.
Yeah.
It actually is super helpful when he has pictures, and absolutely.
Yeah.
So thank you guys so much. That is also very helpful.
And since he created it by himself, then if he has the picture as a referral later on, it really helps instead of showing a random picture that someone else made. So.
And just be careful of what you use in terms of food. Like some children don't like the smells of things. I know I have ADHD and I can't stand the smell of certain things. So you need to be careful. Just check ahead of time that he's not allergic to something or doesn't like the smell, because they can have quite vigorous reactions, quite violent reactions. And you'll just get like this adverse reaction and you won't get anything out of him. Maybe check with his mom, or he'll tell you. All right, I'm keeping quiet now.
Thank you. Our next set of questions come from Kim. Kim, hi, welcome. We'll go through your questions and then you can discuss with our panelists. Should I read all three questions at the same time? Because some of the answers might overlap. So I'll do that. So Kim says she has an honours degree in psychology and she'd like to eventually apply for MA in EdPsych. She's currently completing a PGCE, and as she thinks this might benefit her in pursuing a career in EdPsych, first getting actual experience in the classroom setting. So her questions are: 1, is completing a PGCE beneficial in the process of becoming an educational psychologist? What is the general process of becoming an educational psychologist? For example, what factors are considered or requested? That one has to be registered with the HPCSA. And what are the job prospects like in South Africa and globally?
Okay, if I can come into that one, and I do apologize that I'll have to leave in 10 minutes, but people are more than welcome to send me questions. You've got my email address, and if there's anything that I can respond to. First of all, with regards to prospects, I think if you look at people like Lynn, myself, and Lisa, what we really try and do in SEPSA is to bring up the whole thing that educational psychologists are the ones that should bring educational psychologists as an important field of psychology back in South Africa. Personally, I hope that in a few years' time, we'll move away from this little thing, educational, because people has got the impression you only work with children with B and B reversals. Okay, and that is a remedial therapist work in a way. As an educational psychologist, you work with the cognitive development, the social, the emotional, so you do exactly the same kind of assessments that your other people do. We just don't work with serious pathology like mood disorders and personality disorders. So hopefully we will move away from this naming of an educational psychologist. Because across the world, you don't really talk about an educational psychologist. You talk about developmental psychologist or neuropsychologist, or you specialize in a specific thing. In terms of the field is as big as her dreams. So if she develops a passion, for example, neuropsychology, how the brain works, neurodevelopmental disorders, adolescent, your small child, that's where a passion is going to take her. And that's what she's then going to pursue. I think in terms of South Africa, the educational psychologists are doing exceptional work in terms of our research, in terms of where we get involved with therapies, whether it's REBT or play therapy or CBT or solution focused or whatever it is. So it's the field is as wide as God's grace, if I can put it like this. And she needs to already dream of a master's of following where I want to become passionate about. In terms of first getting experience working with children, I think the biggest key of being an educational psychologist, you've got to have an unconditional love for children. So whether it's an ADHD child coming through your door, whether it's the gifted child, or whether it's a student that doesn't know what they want to do, or whether it's a person that wants to make a career change at the age of 45, we've got to work in helping people write the next chapter of their life story more enthusiastically. So you work with people across the lifespan in the field of education and cognitive development and helping them to reach their full potential. So definitely get as much experience to see, does my passion lie with the child with developmental delays? Does my passion lie with the cognitive thing of memory and learning? Is it with neuro? Is it more with the behavior or the moods? So that will give her an experience of where she is. And she also needs to spend some time with other educational psychologists as well to go and see what they do in their practice. Can you have a private practice? Without a doubt, but you need to be an entrepreneur as well. You need to be able to know how to run a practice as well. The work doesn't come to you. You have to make sure you do have to do the marketing. You do need to become an expert in something and what you need to do. So there's so many things that an educational psychologist can do. In terms of research entrepreneurship, there are so many things that they can do in that as well, whether your thing is in creating new learning material, whether it's into assessments, whether it's into research. And there's also a lot of opportunities for our students to collaborate with overseas universities. If I just think of Lynn with the dyslexia and everything, I'm at the Northwest University and I'm collaborating with colleagues across the world now in terms of understanding memory and maths education and the role of emotional intelligence in terms of how children learn mathematics, for example, and what are the predictors of that. And then the neurodevelopmental disorders. So you need to have a passion to learn as much as possible. So I hope that answers Kim's question, but I hope that she leaves with a passion and a thing that that's what I want to do, because it's really an amazing career.
Kim, I think you would benefit. Many universities would want some kind of teaching qualification, especially if you're going into educational psychology. Teaching experience isn't necessarily needed, but you also need to have at least a minimum of 65% average in honors, because they look at your academic qualifications, your writing ability, a lot of your characteristics. Your interviews are very important as well. You have a proper interview. You have to submit some evidence of your ability to do some research, and every university's interviews are slightly different in their entrance criteria, but you can have a look at that on their websites. So you have to have some kind of academic minimum requirements. Like you see, Petra said, you need to love children, but we work across the ages. So I specialize quite a lot in obviously in ADHD and in dyslexia, which goes right across the ages, but also I also work a lot with sick and dying people, which can go right from age 2 or 3 right until 90. So it's not just limited to children, but you can choose. If you don't want to work with adults, you don't have to. So there's a misnomer that we only work with children, but your academic qualifications are important. You can't get into masters if you don't have decent academic skills. And your personality is important. There are many psychologists that are very shy and introverted. There are many psychologists that are very extroverted and outgoing. And there are some psychologists that are educational psychologists that were social workers, which is one of the girls in my group was a social worker. Some have never taught, some have taught for years. I was the old granny in my group. At the age of 40, I studied. So there's no limit, as Petra said, to what you can do. And research is so varied. It's absolutely amazing. So you can reach your passion, and you never give up, because sometimes people have applied 3 or 4 times, got in the 4th time, because you just needed some extra experience. So any experience that you can gain, go and get it. Even if it's a volunteer somewhere, doing anything that you want to do in some kind of field where you giving something of yourself and working with people. Lisa, I don't know if you want to add something.
Yes, thanks, Lynn. From my side, I would say I see your question mentions the general process of becoming a psychologist. So definitely then doing your master's degree, then you will do a year internship. At the end, towards the end of your internship, you'll write a board exam. And then after that, you will register with the HPCSA. You also need to register with VHF. I think if that's, and Lynn, maybe you can correct me, is that only if you have a private practice, or is that for any person practicing psychology registering?
No,
with
only if you have a
VHF?
private practice, yeah.
Okay.
So you can get a practice number, yeah. If you're claiming from a medical aid, yeah.
Okay. So that's your base, the general process that you will have to follow. And in terms of the employment aspects, as Peter and Lynn said, there are many opportunities. Many people have private practices. Some will be employed by schools to be the school psychologists. You can get involved with universities and do lecturing. You can get involved with like societies, or what do you call these places, just where you can provide your services maybe pro bono or be in support of people in a more general basis. So really lots and lots of opportunities. And in terms of globally, as far as I understand, you would need to do like a bridging course or something, just so that they can check in and make sure that the degree that you have here is compatible with their needs overseas. I hope that helps.
Kim, if you'd like to unmute yourself, and if you have any questions following those answers. No. Oh, there we go. Okay. Kim, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Oh, okay, great. Sorry, I was having some trouble there. But thank you for answering the questions, though. You gave very valid answers, and I definitely gained some insight as into what I need with the marks and the experience and everything. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we have another question. What inspired you to become an educational psychologist?
Are you asking all of us?
Yes, all of you.
I've always wanted to be a psychologist, but I couldn't afford to study. So I first became a teacher, and then studied part-time through MEISA to originally do my psychology. So I was always working with the children. So I was a science and maths teacher, believe it or not. It's like, so from one extreme to the other. But when you do sports, so I was sports mad. So the kids speak to you as soon as their guard is down. So, and then I taught a bit of LO. So then they open up to you a lot. So yeah, I always wanted to do that. And you never help the kids enough. And something that was very interesting, which I did research earlier, when kids are having problems, the very first thing that happens is that their maths and science marks drop, because the frontal part of your brain and the temporal areas of your brain are affected when you have anxiety and trauma. You'll know that, those of you that are studying, which is all of you. And so it affects your ability to reason and think, especially in mathematics and science, and accounting obviously as well. So often when I'd see my kids' marks drop suddenly, I would just casually ask them, what's up with you? What's happening? And often they would let you know. Their parents are getting divorced, someone's died, they're having a really hard time, there's some kind of abuse happening. And that's how, 19 years later, I eventually started my honors and then masters and second career.
Thank you.
Is Petra still around?
No, she's left.
Pity.
For me, I think what inspired me, just children. I've always been interested in children and how they are, basically their innocence and how they don't filter. They will just, you get a true sense of who they are because they haven't been that influenced. So it's lovely to work with that. So for myself as well, I always thought psychology is interesting, but I became a teacher first, and then whilst teaching, I finished my studies to become a psychologist. So just the interest in children in general, and then human behavior. I find human behavior fascinating, just the way people think and the way they do things. And then to combine that with children and the ability to connect with them and to read their behavior and understand that, and just to be in a position to provide guidance and support, I find so inspiring.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we've got a question from Netsai, who is one of our mentors in the mentorship program. Netsai says that...
Oh, that is so awesome.
Yes, well done.
Oh, we need balloons. Oh,
we do.
Well done, girl.
What a great way. Well,
Yes.
it's the best way to start the weekend. I mean, you're having a good year. You're involved in the mentorship program and you passed your boards. Could it get any better?
I hope you can drink that champagne, girl. At least it's not banned.
I mean, it was a bit of a gray area for some of us anyway. Okay, so Netsai is currently busy with her PhD, and the question is, how can I keep practicing the skills without committing to something permanent while completing the PhD? She currently cannot start a private practice because of other issues.
Volunteer. Just do something small. And it doesn't have to be often, even once a week. There are so many needs. I don't know, Lise, what do you think?
Sorry, I'm on mute. I agree. Volunteer, find the opportunity. There are definitely many places out there that need some assistance. So just get your foot in the door in as many places, or a place that you find that you can be passionate about and something that interests you.
Mandy? No. Okay, there you go.
Oh, there we go. I just wanted to say that's what I did. So just from my personal a point of view, I was doing a degree with a view to becoming a teacher librarian. So I was doing information science and English, and I was volunteering at a school for underprivileged children. And it was there while I was actually teaching, volunteer teaching, that I realized that I was on the wrong track. So I think it's very important, if you can find a way to get some experience in something that you're interested in, because very often you'll find that this is perfect and you absolutely love it. Plus it looks amazing on your resume. Any kind of volunteer work looks amazing on your resume. And actually just exposing yourself to the work really does make a big difference. So I thought I'd just share that.
Okay, thank you so much. That really helps.
Thank you. Netsai, do you have any other questions following
No, I don't
that
have any
feedback?
other.
Not. Okay.
No, thank you so much. I'll try to find places to volunteer.
Okay, great. Are there any other questions? We've got a few late joiners. Sorry, Lynn, you wanted to say something.
Where does Netsai live?
Netsai? I think in Gauteng.
Yeah. Mabubane, Pretoria North.
Okay.
So it's an underprivileged community, and I do lots of work in my community, like career guidance. Sometimes I do work with the kids, like reading workshops. I do have the a leaders program where I work with other kids from my community, and then I have to teach them to read because the literacy levels are really low. And yeah, I work a lot in my community and do lots of stuff.
You're a rock star, my darling. You're already doing so much. What is your doctorate on?
Resilience of young people, like emerging adults. Yeah.
Be specialist with that.
Yeah, from stressed environments.
No, just leave yourself enough time to do your research. Otherwise, we don't want you also getting too stressed and having a breakdown.
Well, that's why I was saying
it takes a lot of time.
I don't want to commit to something permanent. So I want something that's like that I can just do and leave. When there's too much pressure, I can breathe, and then something like that.
Well, I'm going to leave you with 2 4-letter words: self-care.
Okay.
Please go and write those down. Go and write those down. Put on your mirror and look at those every day, and remember that Lynn told you self-care.
Okay.
All right, my angel. Best wishes.
Okay. Thank you.
On that note, Lynn, on the note of self-care, I think it's something that is so crucial in psychology. I think there's a huge misperception that the general public thinks, well, you're a psychologist, so you should be fine all the time because you understand how human behavior works, when it is actually the absolute opposite. How, in your opinion, Lynn and Lisa, do you practice self-care, especially I think in educational psychology? What tips and advice can you give?
Okay, so first of all, we're human, and then we are psychologists. So we suffer the same things as anybody else, but we tend to think of ourselves last because we've got work to do, people to see, places to go, and most of us are A+ personalities, except those really few that manage. Look, we're all resilient. We all got here because we're high functioning. And let's be honest, every one of us that are in this place are here because we had to. We had to just keep going. You work ridiculous hours of night. Anyone that goes through varsity knows how hard it is. And when you get your PhD, you wonder how you ever got there. Doing a PhD, that's what I'm saying. If all of you that are doing PhDs now, if anyone told you how hard it was going to be, you wouldn't do it. So yeah, I nearly killed myself. The fact that I'm still here is a miracle, and I'm saying that to all of you. You don't need it, and it's not a good idea. Lisa, don't do it.
No, you already told me not to.
You don't need the DR, guys. Yeah, you don't. And don't tell your research people at varsity that. But yeah. It's not worth it because your family needs you more, and in this time we need self-care is the most important thing, and it took me 55 years to figure that out. And if you don't look after yourself, nobody else can do it for you, and in the end, if you suffer, you're no use to anybody. One of my colleagues did a whole study on resilience and looking after yourself, and then she actually published a book. Now I'm going to show you what the book looks like. I'm going to punt this. I was part of the research thing of hers. It's called Boosting Workplace Wellness. Her name is Dr. Erickson. If anyone wants to know more about this, I'll tell you about it. You can ask Jen. I'll send her the details. And we told our stories in here. There are many stories in here of how psychologists and high-functioning professionals messed up and learned the lesson. And it's not worth it, sacrificing your own self for other people, because in the end, you can't do anything to help anybody if you don't take care of yourself. And the people that suffer the most are actually your family, because they're the ones that care for you, and they end up coming last. So we were joking a little bit before we started. I won't say who was saying that she'd like to study somewhere for her master's, but her husband wants food. And we laugh about it. But don't we owe that to people we care about to make the food rather than put our clients first or our studies first? Even when I was doing my master's, I remember my daughter was she was in grade 8, so she was about 14 at the time, and it was, "Mommy, you're always busy. You've never got time for me." And I still remember that. She's in her 30s now, and it was horrible. And I was pretty awful, because you're grumpy and you're horrible and you're moody and you're not sleeping. Please remember that the people that care about us are the ones that are always going to be there. I don't know if that answers the question. I can talk about that for 2 days.
Something that really struck home with me, that you always hear it takes a village to raise a child. I was thinking about this the other day, and I'm only in my 4th year of studies. I mean, I'm basically halfway through, and it feels like I've been doing this for an eternity. But it takes a village to raise a psychologist. It actually really does. It's an emotional degree, and it's an emotional experience. And although as far as one gets, one still realizes the HPCSA will only accept very strict sort of regulations, and a master's degree is a necessity. But for me personally, it really has taken a village to get me this far. And I think that that's something that, no disrespect to accounting, but I don't think it takes a village to raise an accountant. No, I mean, I'm just using that as an example, because I imagine that's not a degree that you pour so much of yourself into on a personal level. And Lynn, as you said, it's our family members and our loved ones that we sacrifice that quality time for. And I did make that joke, but it is actually true, because we do have other responsibilities in life that extend beyond our studies. Sorry to interject.
Not just that, every single client that comes into your door is a potential complainant. So we're very, very high risk in our profession as well. And I did some court work for quite a number of years, which I don't do anymore. I decided that for my own sanity, I'm not doing that anymore. So every single person that you and that's something to consider for the other ladies that have spoken previously. It's amazing work. It's very interesting. And someone else was studying law as well. It's incredible work. And one of the ladies that was at UJ, that was one of my mentors. She runs amazing courses on legal things. Many of you may have heard of Professor Gertie Pretorius, who's one of the very well-known people that is the gurus in this country on legal work in psychology. And she manages it somehow so amazingly, but it takes its toll on you. And one complainant can ruin your entire profession, your entire professional life. One small thing can ruin your life. And you are going to have a complaint lodged against you. And you look at yourself and you say, is it worth it? Yes, it is. You have to be able to cover your butt. But it's very hard to think, am I doing everything ethically? Am I doing everything right? So it's this constant anxiety and fear behind you. And not just that, now we're living in this COVID environment where everybody's anxious, and all of us have heightened anxiety in terms of our own safety, not just for COVID, but also in terms of our own safety, because there's so much crime. So our clients are feeling exactly the same, and we've got to be so careful because we resonate with that. And then we also have to live with our own fears and our own anxieties. So we've got to make sure you go for supervision, make sure you go for your own therapy, because it's essential. It's not just, okay, you need to, you must. And that's another 4-letter word, you must go for therapy. All right, I'm a shush now.
From my side with self-care, I would say reflection and a mindfulness. So if you find yourself being irritated or being a bit grumpy or lashing out at your loved ones, go sit with that and ask yourself why. And it's often uncomfortable. It's not a nice feeling to sit. Often we just want to do something to get past that feeling, have a drink or phone someone, but sit with that feeling and ask yourself, why am I doing this? Did you have a difficult client on that day? Did you take too much on? So I think just take the time to reflect on why you're feeling the way you're feeling and learn to say no. I think often in the beginning, you're so keen to get your practice going or to see as many clients as you can or to gain as much experience as you possibly can. But there comes a point where you just have to say, you know what? I can refer this client to someone else and it's going to be okay. They will still get the help they need. So I think just that. And there's no one size fits all in terms of self-care. Every person's recipe looks different. So Lynn, you need to go run a walk with your dogs. I do the same, but for other people, it will be that glass of wine, or it will be go take a bubble bath, or it will be phone your best friend. So I almost want to say, make a list of things that you know is valuable. Go listen to a wonderful piece of music, or watch a concert, something like that. Make sure you know what helps you get through tough times, and follow up on that and do those things.
Thank you so much. To a few of our latecomers, if you'd like to ask a question, you can send it via the chat function. You can send it to me privately, or raise your hand, and the recording will be available on the Student Division's YouTube channel once we've finished the webinar. Ravendri, your hand is raised.
Yes. Hi, everybody. I just want to know, when we choosing like research topics for a master's program, often the advice we get is try not to choose a topic that's going to become an ethical challenge. And for example, one of my interests is suicide rates among the young children and depression. And I've often been told that's not a very educational psychology inclined topic, and it could be ethically challenging. I just want to know, what are some of the guidelines that we as students can look towards when trying to choose an appropriate research topic for a master's dissertation?
If you've been told that, find another supervisor. If that's your challenge. Now, Ravendri, really, if that's your passion, if that's something you really want to do, you need to find someone that's really going to do that with you. You need to, and I'll help you find that person. Seriously, there's someone out there that will do that with you. You in KZN, hey? We'll find someone for you.
Okay.
No, we need to find you another supervisor. No, seriously. Sorry, never say never. There's no such thing as, we have to learn to say no, but we also have to learn to say yes.
Yeah.
Don't accept no.
No, I definitely agree.
I'm serious. You didn't get where you are today by accepting no.
That's a good point.
We can get around ethics. We can get around ethics because that's really a serious topic. Our kids are committing suicide by the hundreds. And if that's your passion, go for it, girl. Sorry, that is my answer.
Thank you.
We need you to do that research.
It is related to educational psychology. It has to do with children and the well-being, psychosocial well-being. So I agree, you can get around the ethics. It might be a little bit more trouble or a little bit more effort, but I don't see any problem. So Ravendri, how do you, in terms of guidelines of what you should do, I think find someone who's been through it, who's done it, and just have discussions and talk it through with someone who's maybe knowledgeable or experienced, and just bounce your ideas off to get some feedback.
Which university do you want to study through?
UKZN, UJ, Wits. Basically,
we'll find you someone, because you can do it distance as well. Because is it master's level?
Yes.
All right, you've got my email.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Me and Lisa, we'll organize something for you. Maybe even Pietru we'll organize something for you.
Thank you.
We love SEPSA. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes, we do love SEPSA.
Yes, we really do. Let's just put it out there.
It's Mohammed.
Hi, guys.
Hello, is that Mohammed?
Hi.
Yes, it is. With a mask.
How's it? Cut your hair.
I did. Thank you for noticing.
It looks awesome. There's
you.
Our handsome man. Have we got any other men today?
Don't think so. Oh.
Yes, we've got Howard, and I think we've got a couple of quiet men.
Nice to have some guys around.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm married. I'm just being ridiculous.
But in the interests of equity, it is quite important.
It is. No, but we need men in our profession because our youngsters need some role models.
Okay,
sometimes
so
I want to morph into a man. I'll be too pretty.
Our next question is from someone who'd like to remain anonymous. She's just started her internship and would like to know what the panelists advise internship students working at schools with COVID-19 and how the interns can best offer support.
Good question. Lisa's at school?
Yeah, I'm a little bit unsure in terms of what she means if she's not already at a school to do the internship. Or is the question more around how do I provide support to the whole school community? Sorry, Lynn, I don't know if you want to jump in. I'm not too sure about.
Can she maybe just clarify for us what she's needing to know?
Yeah,
I think perhaps I think we need to contain the anxiety. And I know just from my own experience, having been working at home, parents are very, very worried about their safety of their children. And then if the children are okay, they're worried about their children bringing the COVID home. My husband works in the schools. He's at district, but he goes into schools to check. He's a subject advisor, and then he also assists to check COVID readiness. The primary schools are coping a little bit better in terms of the readiness than the high schools are, because the matrics are behaving quite badly unless they've got very strict regulations. But because the matrics are older, they seem to be contracting the disease more and passing it on to the teachers. So can she clarify if she's a primary school or high school?
If you can clarify that question for me, but she did clarify that she's referring to offering support to the full school community and to parents as well. So if you'd like to send me that private message and let me know if you're at junior or high school. Give it
I think as a psychologist in general, all we can do is contain. We can contain, we can contain the anxiety. And we also need to offer parents and children choices. That's very important. Often they'll say, what should we do? And we need to say to them, you need to make a choice that's right for you. Otherwise, you're going to get the blame. Be very careful. Lisa, I don't know what you would do in that situation. I don't tell them what to do.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, just to contain it, Lynn. So to be available and to lend an ear to whoever needs the support. Again, often I think in terms of parents just need a sounding board, maybe with someone that they're not related to or someone that doesn't have a specific opinion about something, but just a sounding board so they can talk through the options. If they are very anxious, to provide some ideas of how to alleviate that anxiety, and then to also give the parents some strategies so that they can contain their children's anxiety. Because often that's what the children are very anxious. The parents don't know how to deal with it because they themselves are possibly anxious. So just give them some strategies that they as parents can do and exercises to do with their children to help alleviate that anxiety, to get a better understanding of what anxiety is. And I think as an intern or a psychologist, you can provide that for the whole community. And I think, for teachers as well, be that ear, just be there, help contain that. Also, talk about self-care with the teachers, remind them of how they should be taking care of themselves as much as possible.
I think also at this stage, the parents are completely overwhelmed because they're not teachers. They've become so overwhelmed that they actually can't wait for their kids to go back to school. So there's this whole dichotomy between I need to send my kids back to school because I cannot cope anymore with teaching them because I'm not a teacher and I can't do this anymore, to the fear of them getting ill or bringing the illness home. And so there's this, I want to get them out of here and I want to go dump them back at school because my kid is not nice to teach. And yes, the teacher says my kid is nice, but they're horrible. And I know that's a bit of a joke, but I think many parents are just so grateful for their teachers for the next 1 month until they start moaning again. But I think many parents are very grateful for their teachers right now because they really understand how hard it is to teach their children. And the teachers are very, very anxious. Many teachers have comorbidities and they feel, remember, teachers are in a profession where they're doing this not because they have to, but because they really care about their students. So many of them are actually risking their lives. So in a community of people that really do care, they're coming there and risking a lot. And even without a comorbidity, there's a very, very amazing young man that I know in Alberton that's in ICU at the moment in hospital, who almost died. He's coming off the respirator in 3 days. They're weaning him off. He's in his he's 38, with absolutely no comorbidities, and who we have no idea how he contracted COVID. And so right on my doorstep. I've got 2 very close friends in the early 60s that contracted COVID in Cape Town. No idea how they got it. So I'm speaking now from people I know. For the first time, I can say I know people. They went to the shop and they got it with all the precautions, wiping down all their groceries. So we need to acknowledge that this is real. And like Lisa said, this is something that people just want to hear, that they want to know you hear them. They need to be heard. And isn't that often what therapy is about, being heard, acknowledging that fear, talking through it and saying, right, how are we going to manage this? Managing anxiety, managing how we're going to deal with it.
Hi, Dr. Lynn.
Oh, there we go. Sakura, hi. Hi. Sakura is the question asker.
Thanks for answering the questions. I'd just like to find out though, I do offer containment and support to the kids, where I'm currently focusing on the whole socio-emotional aspect, where empathy, and we're doing self-awareness, we're doing acceptance, we're doing how to overcome grief, and what personal loss is. I was just finding out, is there anything else that we can do? Is there anything else that or other types of support we can offer parents? Because now we do have cases where parents are afraid of social stigma, and they're not sending their kids to school, even though their kids are negative. So there's the whole quarantine basis. And now we're having teachers who are infected because of kids. So there's that whole cycle. And I was just wondering, as an intern, what sort of support can we offer the full school, so the parents, the students, and the teachers? And I've heard what you've mentioned earlier. I was also just wondering if we could have some sort of virtual support for them online. Would that be okay for parents and teachers and families who are affected? Or does that need to go to an alternate therapist outside school?
It sounds like you've actually answered the question better than
that's my question. Sorry.
Offering amazing things.
Yeah.
Wow, you're an amazing intern. This is like, wow, you're doing incredible work.
Hello.
And grief care is something that all of us are going to have to brush up on, because we're going to, every single community is going to experience loss and grief. And it's going to be mass grief, mass loss. And in order to keep ourselves safe, I think this platform that we're on now is a wonderful option, but please be careful of burnout for yourself, because you can't do everything. I think referral is a good thing. Remember, you're an intern, you're not everybody's therapist. You're there to contain the kids in the school. That's actually your mandate. You were employed to look after the kids in the school. I'm thinking that you need to clarify that for me. You're not there to look after the whole community and all the parents and everybody in the whole school. So just be careful of the ethical reason that you're there, and you can't overstep and take on everything. Otherwise, you're going to burn out. Please just contain and rather refer as much as you can, because I also don't want you to get sick. You're doing incredible work. You're getting incredible experience, but keep safe yourself, and what you're doing is absolutely incredible. I praise you for what you're doing.
And I think if you feel like you would like to do more, you could perhaps think of making targeted little videos. So something for the younger children, short little reminders of what to do when I'm feeling stressed, or you know, for your interscene phases, and maybe something for your teachers, something for your parents. So try and target the different groups within that community, and maybe just make a little video or ask to put something in the school's newsletter, even if it's about parents doing self-care, or how to alleviate anxiety, or how to talk to your child about a friend who got COVID. So maybe just little blurbs, but maybe not too much, because I also think we are quite overwhelmed with the amount of information we're receiving and the amount of videos that are being sent around. But that might be something that you could think about.
If you
Thank
look
you
on our
so
website,
much.
Lisa, you posted some amazing stuff on our website and our Facebook page that you can use as well, especially for
On
little
the
ones.
SEPSA page?
Yes, she can
Yeah.
use that. She can forward that to the school.
Yeah, and I
Thank
think on my personal page, Facebook page as well, as an EdPsych, there's a video about self-care and so forth. So you're welcome to have a look and you know, either share that or make up your own thing. I think it will count towards hours for your internship, so that's always good.
Thank you. I
so
really
much.
appreciate it.
And thank you, Zakira, for touching on such an important topic. We have two final questions, and one is related to COVID and the other is related to international studies. This question is anonymous from someone who is busy, has just returned to school after being in quarantine for coming into contact with someone who tested positive. This person is a school counselor and says, how can I intervene and support educators, and how can I break the stigmas attached to COVID-19? I returned to school and no one is speaking to me.
Have you had your 2 weeks quarantine? Obviously,
Yes. Yes.
I think in South Africa, that's the hardest thing ever. I actually don't have an answer.
Yeah, I also am like, oh, I don't know what to say. Start small, I think. Don't try to immerse yourself in a big group just right away, or try to make a point of saying, I'm fine now, all is good, you see, you can do this. So maybe find just 1 or 2 people that you might have a better connection with, and just start small, have small discussions, ask them if they've got any questions, maybe see if the teachers have questions about it, because you are knowledgeable in that area right now. So be open for that, put it out there, and just start small. Don't be too self-conscious about it. I know that's really difficult, but I think the stigma is something that we are trying to address. Even with the Department of Education, it's something that we're looking at, but it's a work in progress, and it is hard work. So don't be too hard on yourself. Don't take it personally, and just start small. And self-care all the while.
You didn't do anything wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. Please remember that.
Yeah.
And that's a message that you can personally put forward to everybody else. You didn't do anything wrong. Yeah.
Thank you very much. We have a final question, and I actually received I've received a few emails about this, actually a couple of emails about this every month with regards to international studies. So the question today is, does a student need to write the UK board exam if he or she wants to apply for jobs there as an educational psychologist?
Yes. Yes. Whatever country you want to register in, you have to write the board exam of that country. So if you go to Australia, you write the Australian board exam. If you go to the UK, you write the UK board exam.
So to add on that, a colleague of mine wanted to apply to work in America, and there you have to write the board exam in that state, as far as I understand. So every state would have a different expectation. So it could become quite complex.
So lots of studying. I mean, one would get your MEd and then move to another country and have to do those board exams. But of course it is also understandable because it is country specific and the curriculum is different.
If it helps, we have one of the most difficult board exams and the most studying of almost any country because we have so much legislation. So if it helps, it's actually easier to pass the board exam in another country than in South Africa. So well done to our ladies that have passed their board exam, and gentlemen.
Wow.
Mo, we just heard from Netsai that she passed her board exam this morning and she's going on to do a PhD.
Oh, that's great news. Congratulations.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of our Ask Us Anything Educational Psychology webinar. Thank you so much to Lynn and Lisa and Pietro for joining us.
Can I interrupt you, Jen? I just want to tell Netsai that she must register with the HPCSA as a psychologist, even if she's not practicing, because otherwise she has to rewrite her board exam if she hasn't registered, even if she's doing her PhD. She can just read up on the legislation. I don't want her to lose her registration while she's doing her PhD. Okay,
yes,
just to bring to everybody, register, please. Rather pay the fee and not lose your registration, and I'll keep quiet.
Yes.
Thanks, Nita.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, everyone. We really appreciate it, Lynn and Lisa and Pietro, for joining us today and for answering these questions. It's so important to be able to bridge the gap between students' questions or interns' questions and speaking to professionals, because although, yes, we do have access to lecturers, it's very different speaking to people who have gone through this or are going through this practical experience. And so it adds a different dimension with regards to the practicalities of psychology. And I think self-care, and especially being an educational psychologist during COVID-19, is something that really does need to be addressed. So this webinar will be available on our YouTube channel, and I will post the link on our social media platforms. And if anyone has any questions following this webinar, please send your questions to me and I will forward them to Lynn and Lisa and Pietro, as they very kindly offered to assist you further. I've posted my email address in the chat, but it's also on our social media posters for the EdPsych webinar. And I'd like to thank everyone for your wonderful questions. And again, to our panel, thank you so much for joining us today, and to PsySSA, thank you for providing us with the link. We appreciate it. I hope everyone has
if the lady that's got that stigma at her school, if she wants to contact me, she's welcome. I'll help her a little bit with that. Okay, great. I will send the message now. Okay, well, I'm sure you heard that. If you did hear that, please send me an email with your email address. And well, obviously your email address will be in your email, but please email me and I'll send it to Lynn. Right, it's Friday after. It will remain confidential. Okay, great. Are there any other final closing comments or closing remarks that anyone would like to add? No?
Yeah, while I have the opportunity, on behalf of the EST, thank you, SEPSA. For facilitating this space for us. We truly appreciate it, and we always love engaging with professionals that want to engage with us. So thank you.
Okay, great.
Most welcome. Thank you.
Thanks everyone. Take care. Have a lovely weekend, and thanks again for joining us and imparting your incredible insight and wisdom. We appreciate it. And to our participants, thank you for joining us, and thank you for all of your questions. And please take care, especially during this time. And yeah, self-care as well, not just physical care, self-care. Mental health is health. Thank you, everyone, and take care. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.